Dunk.
How we doing, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Infail here with another build guide video. Now this one is a build of hopefully things to come, because as you may or may not know, with the skill Blaze, for Season 10 the devs were hoping to develop it so that you could phase through enemies while blazing, and then you could basically lay the fire better, as opposed to just clanking into a crowd and going, oh, I'm stuck. So what I did is I knocked up a quick build with, relatively cheap gear, just to sort of show, how it could be done, and, experience the mechanics where you run into certain problems and things. And as we all know, I do not like single element builds. So as usual, I've spliced a second element into this one. Technically a third if you count chilling armor, but I digress. So let's go in to the gear for now. So as you can see, I've gone relatively cheap. I mean, I found this myself, fairly easy to find. I slammed it for 3 sockets, so I filled it up with lightning facets, relatively junky ones. They're not perfect, as you can see, but that takes care of the lightning aspect, which we'll go over in a minute. Again, +1 skills there, or perfect facets, or don't even use this at all. With this build, it's fire and lightning, so I would go with a +1 slam to shooter's temper, puzzle boxed, and with a facet of each type in it. With the Tarasha helmet, again, same deal, +1 slam, couple of sockets, couple of facets. My choice for this slot would probably be a Shaco, to be honest, because you get all that life and mana to help with your energy shield, and if the energy shield drops to nothing, your life pool is, you can take a hit. I've not experienced many problems with safety in this. It doesn't have tons of damage reduction, but we'll move on. So again, a +1 skills slam here as well, because fast hit recovery is golden, but you can get that from charms. I would have, Amara's here or something like that, just to get the skills up and the resistances and things like that, because you want to be lots of life. It's one of the reasons I picked this set, by the way, because I love Tarashas. You get so much life and resistance from it to keep you safe. It's a great cheap addition, let alone all the magic finds you get too. So you can do early map farming, with this. So then I've gone with Spirit Ward. Now, shield choices are optional. The cheap starter choice would be a 4-socketed Monarch with Spirit in it. You get masses of faster hit recovery, some magic absorb, which is a rare thing to have on items. Very, very useful. I went with this because it has the +2 to Sorceress skills on it. You get a bit of blocking. It's the lesser fade gives you a tiny bit of damage reduction, some extra rares in case there's conviction knocking around. All around it's pretty good. You could have Medusa's Gaze, because you're going to be getting hit a lot. Even if the devs make it so you can phase through monsters, they're still going to hit you. So you want to be chunky defense, damage reduction, and you're getting a lower resist proc, which means it's always guaranteed to be out, so they'll burn faster with the blaze. So, I mean, this is still a decent enough choice for cheap. Silkweaves for the mana after each kill, and reasonably faster run walk. I would actually try and get a faster run walk slam on these, so you're really tanking it around. I mean, obviously Blaze makes you run super fast, but you get addicted to it quick, like crazy. So ring wise, you don't actually need a lot of faster cast rate, not with my build anyway, because the Firewall has a cooldown of 1.5 seconds, and Blaze has a cooldown of 2 seconds, and then Thunderstorm, which I'm using, is fire and forget, so you don't need fast cast rate for it, and chilling armor is fire and forget. So I went with a bit of fast cast rate just to get my teleport frames up, but you could go with a bunch of skill rings here, and obviously if you're super rich, just put a skill ring there with cast rate on it. Why not, right? So the armor slot, I got this Tarasha and slammed it for 2 sockets, so I put 2 rubbish lightning and fire facets in it. Again, max out, get a +1 slam, and put 1 of each facet in it again. Or if you go in pure fire, of course, I didn't say this before, but just go pure fire if you're into that kind of thing. I hate it, but So then belt-wise, I got a tiny bit of physical damage reduction from this, so I was okay. If I had have slammed faster cast rate here, I would have hit a breakpoint. So I'm a bit gutted, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'd say it's just a cheap version. So belt-wise, I would probably use Verdungos, so you get, you know, big vitality boost. Oh, and armor-wise, you can, you know, Chains of Honor might be a good idea. Get the res up, tiny bit of physical damage reduction, the 2 skills. 2 skills is quite important there, so you could go with Arcane's Valor, with a 3-socket slam to put loads of minus requirement jewels in it, so you don't have to spend too much on strength. Same goes with Steel Carapace, a +2/1, huge defense. Early on, cheap options before you get Tarash's Guardianship is Stone. Huge amounts of fast hit recovery, is skill, and you've even got a Golem to distract people with, so that's useful. Yeah, another fast cast rate ring. As you can see, I've got life and mana per kill on these because you want to get the life up. That's decent, but like I said, you could have 2 skill rings here, both with cast rate or life or anything really. It might be pertinent to have Bulkathos Wedding Band for the life, because if your mana pool goes out, you know, you might panic. As you can see, mine's fairly balanced, my life and mana pools, but we'll get to that. So Mage Fist for the +1 fire skills, so you get that bit extra, and then attributes to get your gear on, so you get more into life and mana. So I have Call to Arms here, which I pop on, buff, and then switch to the next buff. So my weapon switch is actually Skull Collector, because once you're cast as much as you can. I know it's been nerfed to the ground for 2%, thanks Dami. Shout out to Dami, he's a great guy. But if you can like buff with this and get the bone armor on casting to proc, then you get that extra layer of protection from when you're getting hit. I wouldn't rely on it. If it was at its old percent on casting, then I would totally just use it every time. But it's very hit and miss. So you could have the Call to Arms on switch and just not bother with it, really. I mean, I like it because it's an extra layer. And ironically, when you switch back to this and buff the chilling armor and everything else, you actually end up more powerful than the stick on switch. So another call for it to just be redundant as a switch. Right, so that's my gear. Now we'll go over my charms. So we've got the usual Torture Nanny, you know, get the vitality up and the resistances up. It's a tiny struggle with resistances. We'll go over breakpoints and stats in a minute. So I've got life, mana, fast hit recovery. I needed to hit the breakpoints. Like I said, I spit all over the place. So some fast hit recovery boys. And mana, for again, is your life pool, essentially. So I have a couple of fire skillers, a couple of lightning skillers. I do have other stuff in my stash I've not put on this character because I've been grinding the Barbarian to 99, so I've not been paying much attention. But I have more skillers to put in. But you could just go with these as well. These are all lightning ones because I pulled off the fire percent ones to put on my Corpse Explosion Paladin, video coming soon. And then some more life, mana, and some more fast hit recovery and odd resistances I needed to shore things up. Right, so that is that. We'll go over my breakpoints next, I think. So we've got slightly overstacked res, just in case we get caught with our pants down. Tiny bit of physical damage reduction, and a tiny bit of cold absorb. So the cold absorb is from the Spirit Ward, and the physical damage was a slam, as you saw. When that kicks in, you get like 10% extra. It's not amazing. I think it's 10%. Anyway, so I've got this breakpoint. But as you can see, if I'd have slammed on the belt, I'd have got the 105 for teleport. But it's not really necessary. It's only teleport. And you race around a lot with Blaze. You actually teleport a lot less on this build. Well, I do. And then we have the massive 86% fast hit recovery. If I get caught with my pants down and it's a real emergency, then I immediately recover with 86. And I can just spam the teleport button to jump out of there. Or if I've got a free lane between monsters, Blaze. Obviously, if Blaze becomes phasing, then, you know, this is useful, but not as useful. You can probably dial it down to 60. But as it stands right now. Okay, so, and then we've got 6 life and 6 mana per kill. So that's the stat warriors. So then we'll go into the Mercenary. Now, the Mercenary is very optional on this one, because I love Pus Spitter, because you get the lower resist on striking pops out very, very fast. Because her breakpoints, I mean, she's on a 9 frame there. It was unnecessary to go to 152. So yeah, she's really pumping out the lower resist for you to really help, you know, burn and electrocute your enemies. Random ghoul hides for it was a bit of attack speed I needed and some life. The glove slot can obviously easily be improved. I've got a 3-socket giant skull. I was going to put this on another character, but I was like, no. And I fill it full of minimum damage jewels there, and a little max one too. Just you know, why not? Wasn't really sure about this one. It was mostly for the piercing and the damage and things. Knockback's useful. Keep her safe because she's a little squishy. The bolts are absolute trash. I just didn't find any better. They're not even slammed. It's terrible. So this armor again, just to get some ED and open wounds. As I say, there's some open wounds up there as well, and some open wounds here just for fun. So physical damage reduction to help her out. Just keep her safe. Rite of passage for Cannot Be Frozen, just quick and easy. Again, Merc could be totally improved upon, especially because you could switch, but I'll go into that in a minute. Obviously, Razor Tail for Pierce. We want to get arrows hitting as much as possible, piercing enemies and casting that lower resist for our sake. I mean, she does reasonably well. If I feel that she might be getting a bit squishy, I'll pull her out with a teleport and reposition. But I like to use her to tank a little bit, but I'll show that in the gameplay a bit later on. For Mercenary's sake, if you've got cash, take a Barbarian and slap a Rapture on him. So you'll get a very high level lower resist proc there as well. I find this is faster, but obviously the Barbarian's tanky. You'd have to think about him. You can just leave him alone and he can just bunch up the enemies quite nicely for you. So that's that. So skill-wise, I said we'll start at Cold's Tree. So with Talrasha set, you get Cold Mastery from here, so that's why that's so high. But that does help with the cold damage on your Shiver armor, just that tiny bit. I mean, we don't have it for damage. 121 damage is nothing. We have it for the defense bonus, because we want to be as tanky as possible. So I pumped 5 points into that, but it's not necessary. You could just get away with a 1-point wonder. But I was doing it while I was leveling and stuff, so yeah. Cold Enchant, again, pitiful damage, but you get the attack bonus, which is also nice for everybody, all and sundry in the party. So that's the extent of the Cold Tree, nothing crazy. Now, Lightning Tree, I've maxed Thunderstorm, so the delay is 1 second. So it's constantly pumping out Novas as a fire and forget, which is really useful, because if you mess up your blaze trajectory, and you're like, oh man, and then you realise you just blazed through a whole bunch of fire immunes, you're like, oh, that was useless. But then all of a sudden they're bunched up, chasing you, and then bam, a lightning comes down, big Nova, they get slapped. So I'm a big fan of this. And like I said, especially if you went with a Suitor's Temper, Griffins, lots and lots of fire stuff. Again, you could have a Phoenix there, that kind of thing. You could really max this, I feel. But again, I went with a cheap option. So we're maxing Lightning Mastery to get the damage up. We have 1 point in Static Field. I barely use it, to be honest, because you get the fire and the lightning, and it's not really necessary. I use it against bosses a lot. But you don't really need it for bosses either, and I'll explain why in a second. So we got a 1 point wander into Energy Shield, just because it was just easier to have it that way. I mean, I could have, instead of this, an Energy Shield buffing staff on Switch. And then I would save a few points that could go into Fire Mastery, because that's not maxed, sadly. Skill points are very tight when you have to go through a bunch of trees on a Sorceress. You got your Necromancer with, oh, I've got a few points in Summoning, a few points in Poison and Bone, a few points in Curses. I hate that. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, guys. So, Teleport. I don't care about maxing it too much to bring down the damage, debuff. I'm like, who cares? It lasts not very long, 1 second. Who cares? And I barely use it. Like I said, I blaze around a lot. It's super fast. So that's the extent of the Lightning Tree. So I'll max Thunderstorm, max Lightning Mastery, and whatever I've got left goes into Nova. As you can see, there's 1 point there so far. It's just the synergy to Thunderstorm. And I think I used it a tiny bit while leveling. I mostly used the Fire Tree while leveling, which we'll go on to now. So 1 point Warmth as usual to get that tasty mana regen. We max Blaze, so you get a 9.6 second duration at level 34. As you can see, the damage looks a little low, but I kind of feel like the mechanic of Blaze is a little bit weirdly broken at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on, because, it seems like you pop the explosion, and the explosion, as you can see, is pitiful, like 422 damage. It doesn't really do a lot. It seems to be okay. But then as you're running away from enemies and they're chasing you, like, the longer they stay in it, it seems, the more that 836 just seems to accelerate. It doesn't seem to be 836. It's crazy. I can't explain it. I'll show you in the gameplay, hopefully. But it's insane. They get burnt to death. It's obviously still a little slow. It's nowhere near as fast as this bad boy, which is our boss killer. So max it because it's a synergy to Blaze, of course, but also it just destroys. I love Firewall. It's easy to set up lanes once you get, you know, acquainted with it as a skill. Again, I'll show that in a minute. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, you can just stand right up against a boss, cast some static field to bring them down a bit. The Thunderstorm's pumping down on bosses, and then that just cooks them. So yeah, Fire Mastery sadly not max, but that's not so much of a big deal because you get a lot of skill points and masteries from the Taurasha set. So that's pretty healthy. Yeah, right, so yeah, we'll go on to some gameplay. I'll show you an example. We'll just pop into the Frigid Highlands so it's perfect. So what we do, as I say, we pop on Call to Arms and do some buffing. Pop that back on and we switch. And then we pretend we're going to buff with all of this. So we've got... Hey, we got it. So as you can see, that's 1,037. That's a crazy amount of bone shield right there. So that's a good hit to take. So then we do a proper buff now with this side, because this side's actually stronger. So we've got defense. Again, it's still not massive. If you went for, as I say, if you went for Stone or Steel Carapace or Arcane's Valor or something, this would be a lot bigger. But I don't think that's terrible. My blocking's in the toilet because I didn't bother with Dex in the end. I actually went massively on these two. But yeah, so if that runs out, I've still got a decent chunk of life that I'm not afraid to take a hit. So we blaze up. And run in, and it's like, oh, so we run around a bit. As you can see, that lightning is just smacking them already. I'll try and run away a bit. There you go. So wow, I think the Mercenary got him actually, but yeah. And then we can firewall up. Things get torched. And if something was chasing you, you could just firewall like that as well, if it was super powerful and crazy. But as you can see, we took a hit. We've got the buff now. So yeah, 10% it was. So we're on 13% damage reduction. Overstacking resistances in case of conviction. So we'll run down here. Say, let's try and get them to bring her over. Nah, too late, dead already. The Thunderstorm is crazy powerful. Love it. Let's try and run through. You get cooked. Ah, you got hit by lightning as well. That's the thing, it's so consistent, the lightning is crazy. And then just, yeah, torch bosses. Maps, it works pretty damn well. Again, if I was using slightly more, you know, expensive gear, I feel like maps would be absolutely crushed with this. But as I said, the aim is to just lay down paths and cook, and then if something's crazy, you can just sort of cook like that as well. You know, teleport the Merc away, because she's a bit squishy. And yeah. I think it works really well. As I said, you could just forego Lightning Tree entirely and put on things like Rising Sun, Hellmouth, just try and bring down that fire res as much as possible so you can break, you know, all immunes. She can possibly take care at the very end of things. Speaking of her, by the way, I just realised I forgot to explain her role. She is your, with a, you know, free meditation skill. She's a cold mercenary, so she can freeze enemies with the freezing arrow, and then it's a bit safer for you know, if you run into some danger. See, look, she's, there you go, frozen, done. So quick, we need to escape, it's all frozen. We bring her out just in case. But yeah, so she's very useful to have. So we're tri-elementalists, you know, fire, lightning, and cold over here. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, give it a try. As I said, pump out the skills, get some much bigger, chunkier, expensive gear than I have, but I'm kind of hoping that if the devs manage to get Blaze working in the way they intended, I'll be using this as my starting build next season. And once I get all the decent gear, I might forego the lightning. But I love just having that there, just standing around chilling. Look, bam, bam. Okay, they're immune to lightning. No, they're not. It was just slow. That's not good sell for this video. Right, I'm going to leave now. Okay, take care, everybody, and thanks for watching. Appreciate it.